Welcome to the House on Fire podcast. Our aim is to light a fire for Jesus in the homes of those who listen through encouragement and equipping. Let's partner together to advance the gospel in the next generation. I am your host, Lucas Jackson, and I am passionate about seeing more people on fire for Jesus. When you listen to the House on Fire podcast, you'll hear from people you can rub shoulders with every week at Bethel Church, because all of our guests are from our church family. These are people striving to love God, love others, and to serve the world. Hey guys, thanks for joining us on this episode. And today we have Scott Fuller. Scott, thanks for being on, sir.
Oh, you're welcome.
And before we dive into the topic of discussion for today, tell us about yourself and your family.
Well, we're from Moorhead, Tracy and I, and we've been married 38 years and been here at Bethel for 10 years now. Actually, 10 years on Easter Sunday.
Oh, no way.
Yep.
That's awesome.
It's pretty exciting.
So you remember the exact day you came?
We do.
Well,
yes.
Which is easy, I guess, when it's Easter, because it's Easter. So
that's right.
Yeah. Well, very cool. And what do you do for work, and what's your wife do for work?
Well, I'm retired Air Force, and I served 30 years active duty, and we retired in 2015, moved back here. We're from Moorhead, and so we moved back to Fargo-Moorhead near family. And
yeah.
Tracy works, she's an accountant, and she works at West Fargo Public Schools managing federal and state grants.
Yeah. Awesome. And then what do you do since you're retired? Which I know you, so that's like a loaded question. So maybe you'll have to bullet point it for us.
Well, I do some work for some neighborhood people, some widows and some elderly people that have some needs. And so we do a lot of yard work and snow removal and that kind of thing. Some things around the house that they're unable to do or just maybe can't afford to pay a contractor for. So that keeps me pretty busy.
Yeah, for sure. What worship service and campus do you guys normally attend?
Fargo campus, and we go to the first service and sometimes the second service, but we really like the summertime when they're merged.
Yeah.
That's the sanctuary's full and you get to see everybody at one time. And
yeah.
But we're up early, and so we go to the first service.
Yeah, for sure. And then what life group are you guys involved in?
We joined the Huban life group. They meet. There's actually 6 of us couples, and we meet at the Remick household, and all the kids are downstairs, and the adults are up, and we have a big meal together, and then we sit around and do a Bible study and some prayer requests and some fellowship time. Yeah.
What are you guys studying? I forget.
1 Peter.
But that's been you guys have been a part of the group, what, 2-3 months?
I think it's closer to 6.
6 months. Has it really been that long?
It's been a while.
Oh, my word.
I don't know where the time's gone.
I feel like we talked about this 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But they've been at 1 Peter for forever.
There was 3 of us couples that joined the group, and they they had a lesson plan, I think, and so they wanted to start over and kind of maybe get all of us kind of acclimated to where they're at, to kind of start at the beginning and work through it. And it's been a great study, and we're not moving really fast through it. We're taking a few verses and kind of just getting kind of a deep dive and really enjoying the teaching and the learning.
Yeah. Yeah, our group's going through Daniel, 7 verses at a time kind of thing. It's, the first half is, a narrative and fairly easy to follow, but the second half of the book gets a little bit more detailed, and so we're kind of taking our time to go through it as well. So I get that. Excuse me. When did you become a believer?
Well, that's a whole story. Tracy and I actually were saved on Halloween night in 1993.
Together? Both of you?
Yeah, it's a whole story.
I don't even know this story. I'd like to. Well, you tell as much of it as you'd like, and then I'll bug you more on the details later.
Well, we were stationed in Texas San Antonio, and we lived on base, and we lived in a fourplex, 2 up, 2 down kind of thing, and carports out back. And one of the families invited us to their church, and well, I kind of like sitting on the deck reading the paper and drinking coffee on Sunday mornings. And then the next neighbor invited us to their church, and kind of the same response. I got plans on Sunday morning, and and then the next neighbor asked us to their church, and I'm thinking, boy, this is kind of what's going on here
for real, like tag teaming you.
Yeah, but I don't think they knew that they were doing that.
For
though,
sure.
Looking back, and even at the same time, my coworkers, some people I didn't know that worked in the same area, they were asking me to join their Bible study at lunchtime. And I thought, no, I eat lunch at lunchtime. And looking back, I can see how God had his plan unfolding for us. But then I thought they were kind of isolated incidents, and I just thought it seemed, this is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, repetitiously, there was a lot of people that were doing some things in our lives that brought us closer to God, and we didn't know what or why or how what was going on. But anyway, one of our neighbors invited us to their church on Halloween for a harvest festival.
Okay.
I thought, boy, we hand out candy at Halloween, and so that's what we do.
Yeah.
Well, the candy was gone, the sun was still up, and anyway, we just said, should we go out to DJ and Vicky's church? And so, we'll just drive by.
Yeah.
We'll just drive by. Little country church. They won't even know we're driving by. Well, they saw us. So we turned in, and what a great little church. And so we were saved that night. And that was the beginning of our journey.
Yeah.
Anyway, just fast forwarding to today, looking back, I could see how God was doing things in our lives that were unexplainable then, but I totally understand it today.
Yeah.
How everything kind of just came together.
Yeah.
So a whole lot more to the story, but
for sure,
that's kind of the basic.
And what year was that?
93.
93.
You might have been, I don't know, 8.
I was 80. I was born 87. So I was still young, and I guess at the time. And when you say a little country church, like little one room schoolhouse kind of thing with,
well, they had a one room with a baptistry. Maybe there were 12 pews.
Yeah. Red carpet, 14, red pews.
I don't remember the carpet color.
Okay.
But there was a little kitchen, and that was kind of we always had potlucks, and very, just a small little country church where everybody, it was a little church family.
Yeah.
And we met, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, we went out for supper. We were inseparable.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the beginning of our journey.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. Well, today we're going to talk about Ruby's Pantry, which I would think a majority of folks in our church have at least heard of it. But just for the sake of clarity, what is Ruby's Pantry? And just tell us all the details about it.
Well, it's basically a food distribution. A gentleman out of the cities founded it back in like 2003.
Okay.
And he's a pastor by trade, and so he started this nonprofit food distribution. It kind of started with toys to needy families, and then it grew to food very, very, very quickly. They were on a shoestring budget, and they were borrowing trucks, and now they've got a fleet of tractor trailers, and they distribute food that's donated to them by distributors.
Yeah.
The food might be getting near their best used by date or something, and it's all still good food. It's just maybe not the freshest.
Yeah.
But still good and edible and safe.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you get a truck that comes up here on the the second Tuesday of each month, and it's called a pop-up pantry. That's what they name it. And there's 80 pop-up locations that Ruby serves.
Yes. 80?
So Fargo is one of 80.
Okay. Yeah. Is it like all over the U.S.?
No, it's more
like centralized, like up here by us.
Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota.
Okay.
Maybe into South Dakota too.
80 pop-up spots.
Yeah.
Are they all once a month as well?
They're varying.
Okay.
Yeah, they're varying, but I think most of them are monthly, but I don't know. I don't know all of them
for sure. Yeah, man, I had no idea 80 locations. Well, if I remember correctly, there's another church in Moorhead that does it year round, right? They do once a month year round.
Yes,
it's like indoor or something.
They used to be indoor. I've never been over there. I do understand there's a church in Moorhead that does like the third Thursday of each month.
Okay.
It used to be indoors, but they have since moved it out.
Okay.
But I have not been over there,
Gotcha.
But anyway, I understand they do. They sell quite a few shares as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So how does it work? I mean, I've been to it plenty of times and served at it, and which has been great. And so give us just an idea of like, because Jonas like roped you in, right? Like Jonas Bundy was kind of helping get it going or something. And then next thing I know, he's off sailing and other things, and you're running this shindig.
Well, it's not quite like that. He's had this program and he still does it, and he does a great job, but it's pretty time consuming and labor intensive. And so he was really, I think, looking for help with probably some of the logistics and to get things kind of, he's just got a full plate.
Yeah.
And so being retired, I do have time that I can, take care of some things. And so it started kind of a little bit smaller in terms of the share of responsibility. And now it's again, still Pastor Jonas's program, but I do help with a lot of the logistics and communications and that sort of thing. But we get a truck that comes second Tuesday of each month.
And it's a semi-truck with a 50-foot trailer, enclosed trailer.
It's an enclosed refrigerated trailer, and it's usually 2/3 or 3/4 full. And we rent a forklift from down the street here, one of the rentals, and we offload the truck. There's a core group of people that kind of helps get the truck offloaded and the cases and items counted. And then a team of volunteers shows up, and we just start opening cases and really building the shares. And a share is basically an allotment of each of the food items. And it's all laid out. And then when the vehicles come through, the volunteers load the trunks or the back seats. And it's really a neat opportunity to see some people that have a need for some groceries, where that, a $25 share goes quite a ways.
Yeah. Cause if they're, for those who, participate, they either sign up online or they just show up, and then the cars kind of just line up. And then as they come through, they can pay as when they show up, right? $25, but it probably is like what? 60 something, $80 worth of food, give or take. I guess it kind of always depends on what they have on the truck, which is not always the same, I guess.
It's always different. There's almost always produce, fresh produce, potatoes and peppers and onions and you name it. A lot of refrigerated dairy products, milk, a lot of boiled eggs, sometimes ice cream, like 4 or 5 quart buckets of ice cream. We've received whole hams before, and that a whole ham is $45, maybe $50.
Yeah.
So sometimes that we get a lot of frozen chicken breast or quartered thighs and legs.
Yeah.
Chips and cereal and taco kits and soft drinks and a lot of bread products.
Yeah.
But yes, they can order online, pre-order. on the Ruby's website, or they can access it through the Bethel webpage.
Yeah.
Or they can show up with the cash, $25, and really $25 just fills a trunk.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really good deal. And I will put the link to the information for Ruby's in the show notes for this episode, so folks can just go to the show notes and they can click on it, and that way they can see all the dates, details, all that kind of stuff. So, and then one of the things that I've really liked about serving at Ruby's is like the whole family can come out. So maybe just describe what this scenario looks like when people are pulling in and getting all their things, kind of describe that a little bit more in detail.
Sure. So the truck arrives at 3:00 and we start offloading it immediately. And 3:30, we're busting down cases, and about that time, cars start lining up in the parking lot, and it's a pretty organized process. And if you go to the Bethel website, there's a map on there that shows the vehicle route.
Yeah.
And so as they're sitting there, they're parked watching us offload pallets and open cases. They're seeing volunteers show up, and yes, families were very kid friendly.
Yeah.
We've got a mom that carries a baby on her back when she's offloading and building shares, and it's great. And
yes,
we've got young children that are helping pack bags, and we've got middle school and high school, and we've got college, we've got international students that show up from NDSU.
Yeah.
We've got senior adults, we've got married singles. We just got a whole mix of mainly Bethel members.
Yeah.
But there's friends that show up. My wife brought 2 coworkers, and that was really neat. Yeah. They absolutely loved serving, and they're looking forward to coming back and doing that. So it's not just a Bethel function. It's just people helping people.
For sure. Yeah. I've loved the aspect of, I've seen the line be a little different. It used to be kind of like one food line kind of thing, and now it's like 2 with the food kind of in the middle and stuff. And then and the cars are just creeping along, and kids are there and helping. It's a really cool multi-generational aspect that I really appreciate. And anytime I can bring my whole family to something, that's ideal. And there's not a lot of ways I can think of where your whole family can kind of come serve together, and it would be enjoyable for everybody,
Yes.
Yeah.
We used to have the one line process, and that was really congested, it bottlenecked, and it was slow and wasn't very efficient. And so what we did is we opened up 2 lines, one for cash, one for prepay. And so we encourage people to prepay because it just speeds up that process a little bit quicker. And it also, we're cognizant of their time, but also the volunteers, because we want to be able to process these vehicles, the customers through, and then just be mindful of the volunteers' time, because their time is important too.
Well, and there's the factor that, we're talking things that need to be cold, mm-hmm. Things that are frozen. And so, having those things out there and, trying to get those into people's cars and back in their, refrigerators at home is, kind of important.
Yes.
When it comes to, how do I say this? Well, let me ask you this way. Why does Bethel Church do this? There's a lot of folks who are very much, we want to help the needy, which there's a biblical command for that, and love it. And I think that needs to be a part of who we are as a church. And, but why does Bethel Church do this? And maybe Jonas has never said it. I don't know, or maybe he has, but, not asking for you to speak for, but just from your perspective and what you've seen, because you've been helping, lead it. Why do we do this as a church?
That's a good question. I think if you volunteer once, why we do it.
Yeah.
And it's just simply serving people. And, our mission statement here is serve God, or love God, love others, and serve the world sacrificially. Yeah. And I think that we're doing that. a Ruby's event is doing all of those things. We are representing Christ when we're out there serving. A lot of the people that come through, I believe, are unchurched.
Yeah.
And so this gives us an opportunity to represent Jesus, the hands and feet, and just serve and really connect with our community, because there's a lot of need out there. It feels very good to put things in someone's trunk or vehicle that that they really need.
Yeah.
Some vehicles come through and it may be loaded with children and I've been hungry. I grew up in a household that didn't have a lot of resources, and so it feels good to give back to the community, knowing that there's a need.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And if somebody wanted to get connected to serve at it, they're like, oh, okay, maybe they're listening, or maybe they hear about it at church or from somebody else, and they're like, oh, okay, okay, I'm interested. What would be the next step in order for them to get the information they need and to serve?
There's a couple ways. I think most people just kind of show up on an event.
Yeah.
And we usually recognize the new people, and so we reach out immediately and make sure that they're connected and get them involved and show them what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it. And then invariably they will return next month.
Yeah.
For the next event, because it's kind of addictive, in a great way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the website, on the Bethel website, the Ruby's link there,
yeah,
gives some good information. And there's a phone number on there. And I think that if you post something at the end of the podcast, I think that'd be a good thing too. But just reaching out, showing up to an event, I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah, for sure. And I could just imagine somebody thinking, well, what are the qualifications or prerequisites that I need in order to come and do this? Like, what? I mean, I know what they are, and I don't know if it's even a list really, but like for those who are maybe a little hesitant, like, what do they need to be able to do in order to serve?
That's, you just show up and serve, do what you are, what your body allows you to do. And some people, we do have some great senior adults that come out, but they have some physical limitations. And so we encourage them, bring a chair and sit and be comfortable, because we don't want to get anybody hurt.
Yeah.
And then we want to plug people into an area that would accommodate their capabilities. We don't want somebody having to lift boxes of produce if they're physically unable to do that.
Yeah.
And so we've got chips. Well, that's pretty light and easy to do. And so we try to match up an area. And plus we have people that are here to help. We get those 50-pound bags of potatoes.
Yeah.
I don't expect anybody to move them, so I will.
Yeah.
Or we have, a handful of people that are willing and able to do those kind of things, but there's no criteria, no requirements, nothing special.
Yeah.
But we do want to match you with something that you enjoy doing and that your body actually allows you to do safely.
Yeah. For me as a doer, I like a task. I like, I have a hard time sitting around because everything in me just reminds me of all the bosses I've ever had in high school, like, what are you doing standing around? Like, you gotta, when I say bosses, I'm not talking about my boss here at church, but just, in high school, just nobody standing around. What are you doing? Just that mentality. So I have a hard time doing that, but that's okay. Like, cause we get to a point where the forklift gets everything to where it needs to be and boxes are open and we've kind of created sacks of stuff to put in folks' trunks and stuff. And then there's a lot of time where the cars are just slowly coming through and we're just putting things in their vehicles. And there's a lot of time just to get to know the person standing next to you. And so, so really the prerequisite is just, you just show up. And it's pretty straightforward. It's not difficult at all.
Yeah. And if you like to talk, which most people do.
Yeah.
it's a great time to talk to that vehicle operator.
Yeah.
Just share, really some simple pleasantries. It goes a long way, and just reach out and make a connection. But that's when when we're filling the cars, it does slow down. The pace does slow down a little bit, and allows you to kind of enjoy that opportunity and kind of look for an opportunity where God is doing things.
Yeah.
With you and for you. And you think you might be like serving these customers, but when you go home at night, you're going to feel blessed.
Yeah.
Probably more so than a lot of the vehicle operators.
Yeah.
Just because you're going out and serving in a capacity that Jesus commands us to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
By serving.
Now, let's say someone's listening and they're like, "Oh, well, I could benefit from, $25 price tag for a food pantry pop up like this. Like, how do I sign up for the next time it happens?"
To as a customer.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
As a customer.
So, the Bethel website has the link, the Ruby's link, that a person can pre-register. And so you pay in advance. And we encourage them to do that because it's just a lot faster, more streamlined. And then you don't have to worry about exact change or money, and it sort of bogs down a little bit paying cash. And the line's a lot longer for the cash.
Yeah.
Like 4 times longer.
Yeah. So
it's better to prepay, and you just kind of go to it's kind of like a fast pass at Disney World, and you just go right to the front.
Yeah.
Or pay cash and then just hang out. And one thing I was going to say earlier was we've partnered with Life 97.9.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And they've come out and they've played music, and then they give little swag items out to vehicle operators or the children or whatever, and that's always been a big hit. And I just saw an email today that they're going to be out on July 8th, the July event.
Okay.
And they're going to be providing music, and that's just a way to reach people in a different means.
Yeah.
Through music.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to open even a much, much bigger door of this Ruby's event. Because once people start listening to a radio station that has, positive, uplifting music, they might be attending Bethel or some other church in the community.
Yeah.
And so we may be planting seeds and changing lives.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Through that partnership. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I'll put this link in the show notes, but if you go on to the link on our church website, you can even just Google Bethel Church Ruby's Pantry and it will pop up. That's usually how I find it. But there's a spot that says get food and then pre-register for food. There's just a little button there. And so easy to do, and even has the upcoming dates, April 8th, May 13th, June 10th, all the way through November 11th. So we just do it through April through November, correct?
Yes.
Currently?
And we, we've been kind of experimenting with that. Last year we did April through December because the weather allowed it.
Yeah.
We are just going to go through November this year. It's all weather contingent.
Yeah.
It just is. And so if it's a mild winter, we might be able to add one on, but it really depends. And we watch the weather all the way up to the day before. And if weather is going to be inclement, then we consider canceling the truck, but we haven't not done that yet.
Yeah, for sure. How has God used this ministry to help you grow in your relationship with God? I mean, because you've been there, you see all those who show up to serve, you see lots of people come through. Like, how have you seen this ministry help you grow with your walk with the Lord?
Well, there's a lot of planning that goes with an event. And we start planning it, 2 to 3 weeks out.
Yeah.
And then as we get closer, it gets a little bit more complex, and we want to make sure that it goes flawless. That's really the key, is to make it an event that people can come to and enjoy and appreciate. Anyway, I used to get really anxious early on in terms of lack of volunteers signing up.
Yeah.
And so we might start an event, and at 3:00 there's only a handful of people, and at 3:30 there's only a couple more. And now it's time to start getting kind of antsy about people, because if there's not people, it's just going to, my fear is that it's just going to be a flop, and it's going to be a direct reflection on all of us and Bethel.
Yeah.
And of course, Ruby's Pantry. But what I realized early on is God has always provided.
Yeah.
And so even when manpower was short, it always worked out.
Yeah.
Just like it should have, without any problems or complications. And so I turned it over and I said, I don't need to worry about the volunteers signing up, because it always works out.
Yeah.
And every month there's usually a handful of people that say, hey, sorry, I'm out of town, or I can't make it, or I've had surgery, or for whatever reason, they just can't make it. And so we know that we're going to be missing 5 or 10 experienced volunteers, but for some reason we always get like these 5 or 10 people that showed up for the first time that we had no idea were coming.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's an answered prayer. I think it is.
For sure.
But that's how God has kind of helped me through this Ruby's experience. It's trusting him and allowing him to take control, and knowing that it's going to always work out.
Yeah. I've never actually counted, but you're looking at a need of 40 plus volunteers. Is there about 40 or 50 there normally, or is that too high?
It's about 40. We have a sign-in log, and we try to get everybody's email. But if people come in and don't actually sign in, they just get right to work.
Yeah.
So we do miss a few, but it's, somewhere between 30 and 40 is kind of the need, but we don't need 30 or 40 people at 3:00.
Yeah, for sure.
We need a big bulk of people from 3:30 to 5.
Yeah.
That's really but the challenge with that is a lot of people that's a typical work day for many. And so that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And so people get here at 5 or 5:30, and we never turn anybody away. And so if they can come at 5:30 and serve, we're very grateful.
Yeah.
But we don't need 50 people or even 40 people at 3:00 through 7:00, because it's not realistic. And then people's time's not being used effectively. And so they can get discouraged and say that that was a waste of my time. I'm not going back.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we use their time, and that we're just being resourceful. But we need probably 30 people between 3 and 5.
Yeah.
3:30 and 5. That's kind of when we're really packing those shares.
Yeah.
Filling bags with grocery items, and it's time consuming, and it just draws. But when you're done at the end of the night, boy, it's just you look back and say, what a neat opportunity.
Yeah.
Everyone's tired, might be kind of sore the next day, but it's such a rewarding feeling knowing that you serve the community in this capacity.
Yeah. Just to make sure everyone understands. So there may be a pallet, everything's on pallets.
Yes.
So, the truck driver moves it to the back of the trailer. You're normally the forklift guy. So you get it out of the trailer, you can set it on the ground. Well, it may be a whole pallet of 250 boxes of chicken. Well, so you got to then open up each of those boxes and then throw a bunch in a bag. So that's a serving for a vehicle. So it's, so there's, 15 pallets, 20, give or take 12.
They're sometimes they're double stacked or even triple stacked, depending if they're maybe just one or two layers of cases on there. But I'm going to say there's probably roughly 15 to 20 pallets.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
And they're shrink wrapped, or so you open up the plastic, get the cases, break them down, and so we've got hundreds and hundreds of bags.
Yeah.
With groceries on both sides of the lines, and it just takes a lot of volunteers, some time to make that happen.
Yeah. And then if I remember, there are often times where there may be those that are there working and serving, and they may know of a few families, and they may throw some stuff in their vehicle and go deliver it to some people's house, like friends of theirs or that kind of thing that couldn't make it. Like that. That's even a pretty common thing that happens too, right?
Yes, we have. There's one of our Bethel members. She's a saint. She has her own ministry where she serves some families in the community, where she'll deliver 2 shares per family, and she might have 2 or 4 families each month, and that food goes a long way with these families that she serves.
Yeah.
So last month we delivered to 2 families. The year prior, a couple of us delivered food to a gentleman who was wheelchair bound in an apartment. And so he got in line with his wheelchair, which at first I thought, well, he had a backpack. I thought, well, we can't put much food in that backpack.
Yeah.
Well, he went down. I guess he was downtown and at a food bank, and they said, you might be better off just going to Bethel's pop-up pantry.
Yeah.
And so he came and was just going to get a backpack of food. And I thought, no, that's unacceptable. We are going to serve this young man. And so we filled up a vehicle with more food than he probably could eat in quite some time.
Yeah.
And so we delivered a truckload of food, a lot of freezer, sausage and ground beef and breads and a lot of frozen potatoes. And so, anyway,
yeah,
what a huge blessing.
Yeah.
To be able to do that for a very, very needy person.
Yeah, for sure. And my next question was, which maybe we just answered it, but maybe you'll have other things that you'll think, but how have you seen this ministry be a blessing to other families in our community? You know, cause it's more than just giving food to somebody. I mean, that's what we're doing. You know, they're paying a $25 charge to, receive this food. But how have you seen this ministry bless families in our community?
Each event, I kind of challenge myself to look for a way that God is doing something special. Just one.
Yeah.
When I go home at the end of the night, there's a laundry list of things that I've seen God do that in just like 6 hours.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing. When we were able to deliver to a family last year. There was a kind of a studio apartment.
Yeah.
And there were several people living in that apartment. Several families, not just one family, but several families. And we knew we were delivering, I think we took 2 shares.
Yeah.
And when I say 2 shares, we said 2 shares plus. And so
we
filled a truck and we took it, and so that we knew that they didn't have the refrigerator or freezer space for it. Well, the woman of the house, she didn't speak English, but extremely, extremely appreciative and thankful. And, and she literally was crying, in appreciation for the food, because I think that was going to take care of her family.
Yeah.
And so that stuff happens all the time.
Yeah.
And to experience it is pretty neat. Also at the end of each event, we take leftover, grocery products. And there's a couple that delivers to the downtown to the, I'm drawing a blank, the New Life Center.
Okay.
And they take it down there. They fill their truck with everything you can imagine and take it down there. And you know that that's being used because there's a lot of need at the New Life Center. And so I'm so appreciative of the people that are willing to, one, take their time, deliver food, and then just knowing that it's going to be used in a neat manner at the New Life Center or wherever else it may go.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes when I ask the question about like to folks, like, where do you see God working? It sometimes feels silly because when you're involved in church and you're involved in people's lives, in my mind, the answer is always, well, which one of the 50 examples this week do you want me to share? It's almost like, well, you better grab a cup of coffee because I don't know how much time you got, but I could go, all day long. And that is a benefit that that those who are heavily involved in our church family get to experience the blessing of seeing that, and would encourage those who aren't engaged or involved. Like you could be actively involved in seeing all the things that the Lord's doing if you just, get involved a little bit. So, what would you say are some of the needs of this particular ministry?
We always manpower.
Yeah,
for sure. Because, we're at the mercy of volunteers and there's availability. And so every month we need people. I know when we started, we signed up for a shift and it was set up. Okay. We'll go there. We'll set up for, 45 minutes or an hour, whatever the shift was.
Yeah.
We got there and okay, the shift is over and now what? Should we just leave? Well, no, we stayed and then we did the second shift and then we stayed for the third shift and thought, well, we can't just leave because there's so much work that needs to be done. But we got hooked that first event and then so that was like I think we're going on year number 5 now.
Yeah,
I've kind of lost track, but that was sort of a turning point for us at Bethel. Because we met so many church family members, connecting at a Bethel, Ruby's Pantry event.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long after that when we started our membership, our physical membership here at Bethel, because it just, I don't know, I can't explain it other than we felt like it was the right time to make Bethel our church home.
Yeah.
Anyway, once we volunteered, we were just absolutely hooked, and we haven't missed an event since, and don't ever want to miss one.
Yeah. Because
it's such a dynamic time.
Yeah.
An opportunity to connect with fellow believers.
Yeah, for sure. It makes me think, the Ruby's Pantry is a nonprofit organization, and the $25 probably just helps offset just a few of the costs, but there's no way that their goal is not to make money, I guess, but just that small aspect of the $25 probably helps a little bit. I would assume most of that goes back to Ruby's Pantry. I assume something like that.
It does. So of that $25, Bethel keeps 10%. And so when you asked earlier about needs, that 10%, what we've done is we've sort of went back and bought things that we needed for the pantry event.
Yeah.
So we've bought like the insulated refrigerator blankets to keep cold stuff cold.
Yeah.
We've bought totes, things that we needed, canopies.
Yeah.
We've got several now from several different sources to provide shade for the refrigerated items.
Yeah.
So we've kind of repurposed some of that 10%. We also rent a forklift, and that costs let's just say $200 for the event.
Yeah.
Well, that adds up. And sometimes we rent a big top tent where we have in the past. And so those are all expenses.
Yeah.
And so that 10% really is pennies, but the remainder, the 90% goes back to Ruby's. And so they have a fleet of tractor trailers, and it goes to their maintenance. It goes to their drivers. They have warehouse personnel in the front office. It's a nonprofit. And so that $25 is really just going back to pay maintenance and upkeep and building maintenance costs.
Yeah. Now, it is possible that you could go online to buy a share, but you could buy 2 shares, right?
Yes.
So there's no question about there's no financial questions. So if you're wondering, like, well, when I show up, do I got to give an ID and, show a W-2? There's none of that. There's none of that, right?
No, none of that.
So you either prepay for 1 or 2 shares, or you show up and you pay cash for 1 or 2 shares.
Yep, that's correct.
And it's pretty much the process.
No questions asked, and people come through and they get their share of their shares. And for the most part, people are pretty happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree too. How can we, those listening specifically, be praying for this ministry and the things that takes place every month?
I think, well, I'm going to back up. When those cars are in line, we've had students, high school students out.
Yeah.
They were set up in pairs, and they were going down the line asking the vehicle operators if they had any prayer requests.
Yeah.
And that's, for a high school student, that's kind of takes them a little bit out of their comfort zone, I suppose. And so, but we received some feedback for some vehicle operators that they were extremely pleased and impressed and surprised that we would be willing to pray for them.
Yeah.
And so I think that's my biggest request, is that people are praying, that when people come through the Ruby's event, and I'm going to guess that a lot of them they don't belong to a church. We may be their only church that they see.
Yeah.
My prayer is that that we would put our best foot forward, and we would represent Jesus in all things that we would do, and that we would plant a seed with each and every one of those people.
Yeah.
To the point where they would either come to Bethel or find a church home.
Yeah, for sure.
That's my biggest request.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Scott, thanks for your time, man. Thanks for sharing your story and your heart and your passion for Ruby's Pantry.
That's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the House on Fire podcast. Our prayer is that this podcast activates your home for Jesus. May the light of Christ burn bright through you and yours. Until next time.